Hello everybody, I'm Antonia and this is Noel and we are from Boxtail Soup Theatre Company and this is part 3 of our 3-part pre-Edinburgh, run-up to Edinburgh vlogs. This week we wanted to talk about sea shanties. Now, Gulliver's Travels is an interesting book. It's very episodic. He visits these different lands and in fact in the book he pretty much, not every time I don't think, but he pretty much returns home after every land. In our version, we didn't want him to have to keep going home. We thought that would be difficult and unnecessary, so we get him to travel from one place directly to the next place, in essence. However, we also wanted something that would glue the whole thing together and would provide a kind of through line for the whole thing.
It's one of the biggest challenges in adapting a book like this. We had a similar problem doing something like Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. When you have everything in a kind of encapsulated standalone little section, then making it feel as a show that it has something that goes through, runs through the whole thing and connects everything together can be quite a challenge.
And it's the thing that is very important because it needs to be satisfying for an audience to watch. And if it's not satisfying for an audience to watch, then while they might have enjoyed the individual moments, they're left feeling like they're missing out on something, I think. With Great Grim Tales, we used a particular grim story as the through line, so that all the other stories came out of that
even though
one.
there are 3 stories in it, they're contained.
Because that was another one, to be fair, which could have very much been like story, nothing, story, you know, and just been
absolutely
episodic.
Again, the biggest challenge there was making that connection and making it work as a through line with a consistent kind of narrative over the whole thing.
Exactly. So we had this idea relatively early on about involving sea shanties, which is pretty obvious. I mean, in that sense, it's not particularly groundbreaking. He's doing a ship journey, so that would make sense. And in the R&D footage that we put up, you'll see that there was an idea for what the opening sea shanty might be like, which is effectively like a prologue, I suppose, for the story, that one. And then what we wanted, when we'd gone through the R&D a bit and we talked about them a little bit more, we thought that it would be nice to have sea shanties after every land that effectively summed up the lessons that you learned from the land. But we didn't want them to be too on the nose, so you've been very carefully crafting lyrics that are metaphorically that rather than overtly.
Yeah, exactly. So we wanted a way to connect the kind of the two together and also to sum up the lessons of that land, like you're saying. And the nice thing about sea shanties is that they're obviously they're quite atmospheric. You know, all of them, if you listen to any such sea shanties, they are quite good at creating atmosphere or
evocative, aren't they?
Yeah, they really are. Yeah, they're, you know, quite simple arrangements, simple songs, but nevertheless really are evocative. So that was kind of a point in their favour to begin with.
Exactly.
So it's really nice, therefore, to be able to do both of those jobs in quite a succinct way, actually, thanks to those songs. You have a verse or a couple of verses that sum up in some way the idea of what he's learned or what he's taken on from the previous land. But you also, in exactly the same moment, you also get to create this atmosphere of travelling and setting the scene for what's happening to him as he reaches the shore of the next country that he's going to visit.
We hope that we've also managed to add another layer to them, whereby they aren't just simply, as you say, the summing up of what he's learned, that they also create atmosphere, as you say, but that they also, in some form, provide an almost meta-like story for the character, an emotional journey, I suppose, in a way, for the character.
We were really keen that they weren't just interludes, that they helped us somehow in framing the whole story and in giving you a sense of why those characters are there and why you're listening to this.
And it's safe to say that we had one particularly tough day of rehearsals this week. Was it this week?
God,
I can't even remember.
Yeah, I think it was Tuesday.
Where we were trying to add this extra layer, and I think we were basically doing it with a mallet rather than with a fine, deft touch. We were kind of going, this is what we want to put on it, and like hammering it on, and it just wasn't working. And it was quite funny, really, because we were all like, this doesn't work, but none of us quite knew why. We weren't sure exactly what it was that wasn't working. So we kind of stopped at the end of the day. We thought, right, okay, fine, we've tried something. It's not quite working, but there's an element of this that we like. So we all went home, calmed down and basically brought the thing right back so that we were putting an essence of what we had in without, you know, smashing it over everyone's heads.
Yeah. So the challenge then was that we needed 5 of these shanties potentially, because we needed one for the beginning and then we needed one for the end and one to link the lands. So the challenge was actually, you know, it's great to have the idea, but you then have to write them, and you have to write something that sounds good, that's satisfying, and that does the job you want it to do.
And we spoke about using shanties that there are traditional shanties that are already, they're in the public domain. They're just shanties that were like traditional carols or hymns or anything that, you know, haven't got any, it's not like they've got copyright issues, so we could have used those tunes.
Yeah, but we really didn't want to do that. We wanted them to have a little more about them, to have some
and to be authentic to our show.
Yeah, to have a connection to the show and a connection to the story that you're telling.
And be very specifically the right atmosphere for those moments as well.
Absolutely. So for the very first one, which was in the R&D footage from ages ago, that was actually kind of easier in a way, because for the lyrics for that one, I started with the text from the book. Because there's quite a long bit at the beginning of the book where Gulliver is explaining kind of his background and who he is. Yeah, I thought it'd be really nice if we could cover that ground. So if you knew the book well, I think you will recognise that the first line is, I think, the same as the first line in the opening chapter. And that it covers all of that information, kind of packs it into the first 30 seconds of the show, which is a nice way to do it. For the subsequent ones, though, it was a little bit more difficult because as we said, we wanted to get a sense of what he had learned or what the message of the land that he had just visited was. But you want to do that without being completely kind of overt about it. You want to do it in a way that doesn't just say, oh, we met lots of little people and they were really argumentative and that's bad.
No, exactly.
You know, you want it to have a slightly more deft touch than that. And also...
And be a bit more poetic, I think.
A bit more poetic, and to put it into the language of a sea shanty. To make it sound like, actually, it could just be a sea shanty that could have been sung, you know...
Exactly.
Anywhere, anytime.
Exactly.
So, I don't know what's the best example, but...
Any, I think, of them. I mean, the giant one is quite a good one, in a way.
Sure.
So we've been in Brobdingnag. He has... In Brobdingnag, when he's there, obviously he's very small compared to these giant people, and he tries to make himself heard, and he feels like he's not being listened to. He feels like...
Yeah, they make him feel small, they make him feel insignificant, and as a result, in the end of one of the conversations that he has with the king and queen, he shocks them by telling them about gunpowder, which is something that they don't have in Brobdingnag.
No, they're quite a peaceful nation, in fact, and he...
Yeah, so he gives them this pitch on why they should let him teach them about gunpowder, because it can blow people up and it can destroy their enemies. And
he's trying to sort of assert himself, isn't he, in some way?
Yeah, they're shocked and horrified by this. So, in order to get that across in the shanty, what I thought I'd do is put it in terms of ships, of course. So the lyrics go something like, oh, the Giantess is a mighty ship, the queen of wave and gale, 500 feet from bow to stern and more than 50 sail. My tiny sloop rolls in her wake as she goes thundering by. I try, but still I cannot catch the giantess's eye. So the lyrics of the shanty, and it goes on, there's another verse after that. The lyrics of the shanty are about this massive, impressive, beautiful ship, the Giantess, the largest possibly on the sea, and the singer who is in a little tiny sloop trying to kind of get their attention and make the Giantess
firing cannons. The little guy on this sloop does
firing cannons, firing off his guns and all that sort of thing.
So it's very much got the essence of, particularly that conversation, I think, in Brobdingnag, which is sort of the denouement of the land. Is that, would you say that's fair? It's sort of the crescendo point, so, like the climax is the word I'm looking for, of the land. And it's clever. They're really clever. I think you've done a brilliant job of getting that sense across without it being over and
without using the hammer.
Exactly. It's that deft touch again, rather than sledgehammering it.
But that's only half the job, because obviously then you need a suitable tune for each of those shanties, and that needs to do something as well. It needs to, it needs to sound authentic. It needs to sound like a shanty tune. It needs to be appropriately atmospheric. It needs to suit the lyrics, and it also needs to contribute to the atmosphere that you're trying to create then as you move in the show.
And not be what's the word? it needs to complement the energy of the moment, help the energy of the moment, without actually kind of taking you into a completely different thing. Yeah.
So once again, I find that, you know, as luck would have it, it turns out that we're a good partnership as far as that goes, because Antonia then has come up with some brilliant tunes for these shanties.
Yeah, so Noel writes the lyrics and then hands them to me via WhatsApp, and then I sit there singing into my phone, into my voice notes. If I can think of a line, I sing it into the phone so I don't forget it, and then try and build it around it. Weirdly, I seem to quite often start with the last line and work back. I don't know why, it seems to just make it easier. If there's a chorus, some of them have a kind of verse-chorus structure. If there's a chorus, I might start with that. So for that one, it wanted to be quite rousing, didn't it? So it's oh, the Giantess is a mighty ship, the Queen of wave and gale, 500 feet from bow to stern, and more than 50 sail. And then the chorus is slightly different, so it goes, heave ho, and on she goes, the Queen of wave and gale, 500 feet from bow to stern, and more than 50 sail. So it's got this kind of like stompy, giant, like noisy cannon. That's the kind of, it was the lyrics that helped me the most, I think, was the ones where you were saying, it says, I fire my cannons three, and with shot and powder I declare, and I wanted it to have that sense of like punching a little bit.
But there's also little touches that you do, like making sure that the kind of the cadence, or whether you're going up and down in the notes, is appropriate to kind of the sense of the waves, or the size of the ship, or, you know, there's a lot of little things that get thought about as you're picking, like, oh, let's go up there, because it's a nice...
Yeah, and if you're very careful that you don't place unimportant words or important notes or important beats of the bar, because otherwise it sounds ugly. You need to be careful that you go up, and it has a nice swing. Some of them have a nice swing.
And they've got really different feel to, you know, from one shanty to the next, which is also really lovely.
Yeah. So I don't know whether I think we probably got some footage from the rehearsals that we can show you, a little clips of. Maybe we can show you a little bit of a verse of each one, or a couple of different ones that have got different vibes. To be honest, I'm not quite sure what we've got. So we'll see what we have, and then we'll show you something now of what is in the show. And we're pleased with it now. We were banging our heads against a wall for a little while, trying to make them work. But the nice thing about a shanty, I think, as well, that's worth saying, is we're not musical theatre performers, nor do we pretend to be, and we never would. But so it's very important that if you're going to add singing to a show, that it doesn't sound like you're trying to be better than you are. I think you have to be very aware of your own ability. And these shanties, they were sung by anyone.
They were work songs, essentially, weren't they? So everybody would have sung them, and you know.
So they can sound a bit rough and ready. They can sound a bit raucous. They don't have to sound beautiful and perfect, and in fact, they probably shouldn't. So I think,
they won't.
And they won't. But they do definitely add atmosphere. So we're very pleased with them.
And it was a different challenge. You know?
It was.
It's nice to have. Just something a little different in the show that pushes you to work in a slightly different way and do something new.
And I think we're proud now. I am, and you definitely should be. The lyrics are brilliant. That we can say legitimately that they are authentic and original shanties in the script, which is really nice. So, like I said, we'll show you some footage, and as always, thank you very, very much for watching. I think that's the end of our little 3 pre-Edinburgh.
Next time we see you will be from Edinburgh?
I don't think so. I think
it'll
be just before.
The day before?
Yeah, it'll be the last rehearsal day, I think, probably something like that. But if you are coming and you haven't booked your tickets yet, do book your tickets. Thank you so much to everybody who has.
Yeah, some shows are getting busy.
Yeah, so. It's really great, and please do keep spreading the word. I feel like you must be, because it's all selling. It's doing all right so far. We keep our fingers crossed. I don't like to jinx it. I get very like, ooh. But thank you very much. Thank you for watching. Please do like, subscribe, leave us a comment, ask any questions you like, and we will try and answer them as well as we can. Welcome to new subscribers, and once again, we will see you again next time.
Near 4 years at sea, I resumed London life, and I took Mary Burton as my wedded wife. It wasn't too long till the truth became plain. The time came that I must set sail again, and we'll travel on, yes, we'll travel on together.
Once I had made my perfect home,
Set sail ever onward,
like none I'd ever known.
Weigh anchor and it's on we go.
Leave it on
And it's on we go. Set sail ever onward.
for we can't stop now.
So towards and go. Weigh anchor and it's on we go.